All right, and thank you for listening to KQCK radio station. This is Joe, and of course it is time for the O Factor. The organizer with the mostest, this Jessica, and an incredible guest tonight we have on, talking about something you wouldn't even believe would be in the organizing world, healthcare reform. No, not the political crappy stuff you hear on, all the regular talk shows and all that. This is going to be the exciting entertainment version that you need to know about. This is very important, and you know what? You make the intro, Jessica, because I can't even say anymore.
Well, I kind of want to start off on different than I normally start off on. Guys, I love doing the radio show, but this is kind of a serious topic, and I sent out this email today.
Are you talking into the orange spot on the mic, by the way?
Am I?
I don't think you are.
Right there. There's an orange. I'm not going to tell you where the orange spot is at, but it's right there.
All right. As long as you're talking into the spot.
Is this better?
The O spot.
The O spot. This is an email that I sent out, and I just want to read it for everybody so that you can kind of understand where we're going with this tonight. And so it starts off as like, I just got out of a shocking and informative meeting with Patricia Brugman, who is our guest. She's with ABBA Health Plans. The healthcare changes that are already scheduled to happen are frightening, to say the least. Frightening not from a political standpoint, but from the drastic changes that are happening now, and there are more changes on the horizon. I was very fortunate today that Patricia has agreed to be my guest speaker on tonight's show. Please don't mistake this as some attempt to get more listeners. Not that we don't want more listeners.
We want more listeners, so this is an attempt.
But this, okay, it's a backhanded attempt. Okay, I'll be honest. But most importantly, most people who know me know that I don't usually get rattled by political or government events. That's just not who I am. But after talking with Patricia today, I was rattled. I was absolutely stunned by some of the things I didn't know and the amount of misinformation that I had. Tonight's show is not another political debate. The time for debating is over. We're with it now. Tonight's show will cover the facts on the changes that have already occurred and what you can expect soon. This affects everybody, no matter your income, whether you're married or single, with or without children, an employer or an employee. So I encourage everyone to listen up for no other reason than to become aware of just how different things are going to be. And you don't have to take my word on it or wait until this hits you in the face, but you can stop and ask questions today. And Patricia has so much information that we have, I have talked to Joe, and we have decided that we're not going to take any calls until 6:45. So that'll give Patricia plenty of time to actually give you the information, because there's just so much to share. So without stealing all her thunder, Patricia, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
And tell us a little bit about yourself outside of insurance world.
Outside of the insurance world, I am a mother of two wonderful boys. One is 21, the other one is 13. And I've been in the insurance industry for the last 5 years, all of which has been very, very informational, very exciting, and ever-changing. And that's really essentially why I'm here tonight. I just really want to try to educate consumers, people that are out there, to really have a little bit of a better understanding of what is happening in the healthcare industry, what's happening with insurance, and how it really is going to, affect people. And again, just to reiterate what you had said, this is not, I'm not getting into politics at all. It's really simply just information.
Right.
So.
And just out of curiosity, if you had to gauge the percentage of questions that you're getting asked right now. So you have your normal people that call up and say, this is the kind of health insurance I have right now. Can you offer me a better plan? I'm sure that's probably one of the top 5 questions that you get asked. But are you seeing that since the elections, you're getting more and more questions about, okay, wait, I don't understand. How is this affecting me?
Yeah, and that's one of the big things that I'm really trying to do. Education, in my opinion, is the best way to be able to make an informed decision. And unfortunately, if anybody even has an inkling, there are over 2,400 pages associated with the, Affordable Health Care Act.
2,400 pages.
2,400 pages, and it is a lot to digest, and it's a lot to interpret. Very much like, the Bible. Sometimes it's all about interpretation. But there are some things that I really want to go over tonight, just to really help get a little bit of a basis on what's currently in effect, what's going to come into effect, and what you can do just to be prepared, to be organized for what's going to come down the pipe.
Fantastic. So that gives us, for those, we are in a show about getting organized. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to spend the next 30 minutes getting as much information about what's going on right now and what we can expect. And then at the end of the show, we're going to have a checklist of things that you need to do to make sure that you're organized around this, so that when you do contact your insurance professionals, people people that you trust, you have the right questions to ask. So, okay, Patricia, where do we start with this? I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Well, I'm going to kind of start from the beginning, which is usually a good place to start. But back on March 23rd, 2010, the Patients Protection and Affordable Care Act, which is now known as PPACA, or also known as Obamacare. It was actually signed into law by President Barack Obama. Essentially, what that means is that there is a timeline starting from 2010 that actually goes all the way out through 2018 for the implementation of PPACA, or the Obama Health Care. And so there's lots of things that are current now. There's definitely changes that are coming down the pipe. But the thing that kind of starts, everything out with is that there are certain provisions that PPACA has to actually come into play. First and foremost, anybody that has individual insurance, and this is kind of where I'm really gearing this towards, because there's different parameters set for group insurance, which is otherwise known as insurance that you get through your employer.
Okay.
A lot of self-employed business owners that are out there, 1099 contract workers, don't have the ability to have group insurance or obtain group insurance, so they are able to purchase individual coverage on their own.
Now, I'm going to interrupt you real quick. You were telling me earlier when we were chatting, like, what's the requirements? If you have, how many employees do you have to have before you're required to get group insurance?
Right now, currently, from a business standpoint, if you are a business that has less than 50 employees, you do not have to offer health coverage. Any business that has over 50 obviously does. What I'd like to start out with is if you have health insurance, if you have a policy that went into effect prior to March 23rd, 2010, you have what's considered a grandfathered plan. A grandfathered plan simply means that they do not have to adhere to the healthcare reform essential basics,
okay,
and those particular benefits. So what that means is, on June 14th in 2010, the Departments of Health and Human Services, Treasury, and Labor released the interim regulations, and basically they're further clarifying how the changes are made to the health plans that are basically going to affect their status. So grandfathered plans under PPACA means that you have had a health care, your own policy, an individual policy in place prior to March 23rd, 2010. If you have one of those grandfathered plans, those particular plans do not have to adhere to the mandates that are set forth by the healthcare reform.
So pretty much anything from this point forward, as long as they stick with that same plan, they don't have to make any changes. They don't have to. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, what that means is that the requirement that the plan covers the essential health care benefits beginning in 2014 does not apply.
Okay.
So if you have a grandfathered plan, essentially come January the 1st, 2014, when everything really comes into play, you will not have a government mandated plan, which means that at that point in time, you have to purchase a government-sponsored plan because it doesn't adhere to all the mandates that are being placed upon the insurance companies to make sure that certain benefits are being covered. So, for example, if you have a grandfathered plan, these particular benefits that have to be covered aren't by as far as the grandfathered plan. So the requirement that plans cover essential health benefits beginning in 2014, if you're on a grandfathered plan, that's not going to happen. Covering preventative service without cost sharing will not happen. And so in essence, only coverage that was in force after March 23rd will have all of these continued benefits.
Okay.
So those are kind of the two different statuses of what they're going to be considering a grandfathered plan. So those grandfathered plans do not have to adhere to the mandates they're outlined by the Obamacare.
Okay, and we're going to go into some more details as far as how that affects people, right?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. So in essence, what that means is that if you have an individual policy after the law took effect, so after March 23rd, 2010, you actually have certain benefits by the insurance companies that are being mandated by this particular law. A lot of them have already started and are continuing to go through the timeline as all of the changes are coming into play as each section of the law is coming into effect. So in essence, I can tell you for, a couple of things right now that there are certain things that have already come into play. So for example, July 1st, 2010, the healthcare reform mandated that children up to age 26 are allowed to enroll as eligible dependents, in other words, stay on their parents' plans, regardless of their full-time student status, which is how it used to be, and added to existing plans. Basically, they're still subject to all the normal underwriting and so on and so forth, but you can basically keep your dependents on until age 26.
And it used to be 21, right?
It used to actually be 25, but what happened was they had to be a full-time student.
Right.
So there was a lot of stipulations that were outlined that said, okay, in order to have them continue to be a dependent, they had to fall into certain categories.
But not anymore. So it's 26, and it doesn't matter whether or not they're in college at all, or whether...
Correct. It doesn't matter, regardless if they're full-time students. It doesn't matter to what their status is.
They can be a bum sitting on the couch at home.
They could, yes, and you
stay
know
on
what?
mom and dad's insurance.
Right.
And you'd be surprised at how many of them are out there.
I'm sure there's not any at all, right? Not around here.
And none of them are listening to the show to know the
Not a
benefits
one.
of it.
Yeah, exactly. And so, for example, another thing that's just falling into the timeline, September the 1st, 2010, insurance companies no longer issued child-only policies, okay? Which means prior to that, you could have, if you had a 6-month-old, if you had a 10-year-old and you wanted to purchase insurance specifically just for that child, you could do that. Come September 1st, 2010, that ceased to exist.
And I ran into that with my little one. We tried to get her, we tried to get a policy just for her, and no, I called pretty much every insurance company on the planet, and then I called you.
So,
Yeah. And then I confirmed the fact that no, you could not, Jessica.
So the question is, are you in favor or against all these things?
There are certain things that I'm in favor of. I guess the thing that and this is just a personal, obviously a personal opinion, the way that it's being carried out is just probably not the most favorable way, I guess is kind of a politically correct way of saying it. Healthcare does need reform in some way, shape, or form. There's a lot of people that go without health insurance because of the affordability factor, from pre-existing condition factors, and that's really a shame that we have to, really alienate those folks that fall into those categories that cannot do that. So it's definitely a change that we have to wrap our arms around. The change in the idea is not a bad one. The way that it's going to affect us is just one that people have to have an understanding of what this really actually means.
So pre-existing conditions that, if you don't die between now and then, do they have to take you then with pre-existing conditions?
Right. Come January 1st, 2014, insurance companies can no longer decline people with pre-existing conditions, so diabetics, heart attack.
But they can charge through the roof, or what?
Well, no. There's going to be a level. There's on the government-sponsored plans, which will take effect January the 1st, 2014. There's 4 different tiers of plans. One is called the bronze, which is the lowest end. Then there is the silver, the gold, and the platinum. All of them, which have slight differences. Most of them are financial. Just the financial exposure, as well as out-of-pocket cost caps, so that they know you're not going to go past a certain out-of-pocket exposure. But yes, all of those are, and there's no underwriting. There's no waiting period.
That's amazing. And I don't mean to be taking all your questions.
No.
I have one more quick one, though.
Go ahead.
Does that mean to get in to see a doctor, it's going to be a real pain in the butt?
Well, that remains to be seen.
That's what that's what I'm understanding from a lot of the doctors and medical people I'm talking to. Wow.
It's going to be a real shift in the way we think about healthcare, and it's a real shift for our healthcare providers as well.
And we were talking earlier, and some of the doctors are really having to think out of the box and coming up with real creative ways to provide people, whether they have coverage or not, make sure that they can continue seeing their same doctor, still be able to get into their doctor. So, it's really forcing people to change the way that they look at
From what I hear, a lot of the doctors now are applying at McDonald's as a second job.
I wouldn't doubt it. And I have a pre-existing condition, so when I tried to get traditional insurance, they were like, sorry, no thank you. Small sleep disorder, no big deal. I can It's not Tourette's, in case you're wondering, Joe. But but when I tried to go get insurance, they were just like, no. So I was one of those, I have to say, like when it came up to the healthcare reform, I was like, rock on, now I can finally get insurance. But after talking with you earlier today, I realized, okay, it's not going to be as easy as I was led to believe, or that I chose to.
And why is that? It sounds easy, right?
No, and that's some of the things that I'm not going to steal her thunder because she's the expert here, but it's not easy.
It's not easy, and the thing about it is it's not easy to understand because there's so many different interpretations and so much misconception that's out there, and because the law is over 2,400 pages, very few people, take that to bed as
I'm going to read that. I'm going to read that
nighttime
tonight.
Reading material. Exactly.
I want a book report next week.
with my manual of the internet.
Right, exactly. But, I am just, for those of you who are out there listening and want to try to get some additional information, just as I'm, maybe talking, there is a great website that's out there that does provide updated information, and it is updated periodically with the changes that come down as far as the healthcare reform. And that website address is www.healthreform.kff.org. And in there you'll find some great information on the timeline on how the law is coming into effect, the changes, like I said, that are currently made, ones that are coming down the pipe, et cetera, et cetera. But yes, I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that people think that, okay, great, come January the 1st, I don't have to worry about it. I, I've rehabbed from cancer and now they have to take me.
Right.
And yes, that is absolutely 110% accurate. Now, it's not free.
Okay, that's the downside. It's not free?
It's not free.
It wasn't free before.
It wasn't free before, but I'll also, on that website that I just gave out, there is a really handy little tool in there, and it's called the subsidy calculator. And it actually helps you to kind of get an idea of what the government-sponsored plans are actually going to cost.
So you gave me some of those numbers, and it floored me. So
I'm gonna go ahead and work on getting this put up there so people can see it.
And also, but wait, two things. You gave us some numbers, but I also want to make sure you tell them about what you have going on this Thursday. So first, before you tell them about Thursday, just give them a sample of what a family of 5 on the silver plan.
So I ran some quick numbers using the subsidy calculator, and obviously, I put in the state of Arizona. This is where I live, and put in just a family.
Let's say 2 adults and 2 kids.
And right now it doesn't really matter because it just says individual or family.
Right, because it doesn't matter how many kids.
And so then also it asks you for your income because you will be able to get a tax credit. But I'll continue first, and then I'll kind of figure out.
It's more expensive if you make more money.
You just don't get as much.
Thank God I'm broke, huh?
It's not as clear cut as people think.
Right. So I put that all in there, and just based on adjusted gross income of $50,000 for a family, on the silver, which again is not the top, which is platinum, but not the bottom, so it's kind of somewhere in the middle of the road, it comes out to be $14,000 a year.
What?
That equates to a little over $1,100 a month.
That's at $50,000?
And that's at $50,000.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so you guys, people out there, listeners out there can certainly feel free to, get on that site and start looking at the information because things will become a lot more clear.
Right.
Now, in that...
I'm getting rid of my Ferrari for sure now.
Second home in Maui.
Yeah, that's got to go. In that, obviously, the lower the income, the more tax credit you're going to get. The only thought process that I want to make sure that people understand is that credit comes at the end.
Who's going to afford that?
You still have to come out of pocket to pay the premiums, and then come your tax time, you will get X amount of dollars depending on where you fall within your income category.
Do you go to non-healthcare prison if you don't pay that, or what?
Yeah, well, there are penalties. So for those people that do not want to carry
I know they give enemas
health
for those people,
insurance,
for sure.
Yeah.
Extra prostate exams.
It's
nice. Those are free.
It's a one-way ticket.
And not to paradise, let me tell you.
That's right. So yes, absolutely. If you choose not to cover yourself with health insurance, then there are penalties that are assessed per person
I don't
annually.
I don't know many small business owners or even people that are employed that make $50,000 a year that could pay $1,200
Right.
or
And
so
I
a
think-
month. I don't even think that's
And that's where I
is that
was
even
so
possible?
shocked.
I mean,
I was so shocked when Patricia and I met this
what is
morning.
that website again? I want to get it up for people to see.
Yeah, absolutely. The website is
Right.
www.healthreform.kff.org.
And we're going to be posting all of this information. Patricia has tons of information available. We're going to also be posting her contact information. It's all going to be on the Facebook page. So go to Facebook, search Become Organized. It's all one word, no space. So on your Facebook page, go and search Become Organized. It'll come up as the O Factor. And then we'll have all this information, all these links. And now, please, you have this really great free event coming up Thursday, because there's no way tonight we're going to cover everything. I think we're already derailed.
Oh gosh, yeah. And and you know, there, like I say, there's just so much information, but it just needs to be clearly defined. And just giving you little tidbits of what I've, given tonight and what we'll be able to give tonight's not even going to come close to scratching the surface on anything that's out there.
I'm still floored by that number. I was thinking you were going to say like $350, and I was going to go, wow, that's great, because I've been paying $700 for the last, it's been going up every year, but
right. Well, you have to stop and think.
$1,200. What?
Well, the risk pool now is not just including healthy people.
Right.
Now the risk pool contains unhealthy people.
Everybody.
I mean, you're talking people with AIDS, everybody.
Everything.
Cancer.
Doesn't matter what
Wow,
it is.
that's pretty
no
interesting to take
underwriting,
in there.
no waiting periods, no nothing.
And you got to live underground, pretty much like in the sewers and stuff, to get away from it, huh?
From a social context, the thing that comes up for me is, one
Wow.
of the few things that stop people from having extremely risky behavior is that they're going to have to pay for it. I have
Now
to.
you are.
But now it's not so much I have to
Extremely
pay for
risky behavior.
Everybody will have to pay for it. So, okay, so great. So now I become a drug addict and I go share needles and then I get HIV. Okay, great. Now it's not just my problem, but it's everybody's problem, because now everybody's having to pay for it.
Well, that's just a part of how, we're not segregating pre-existing conditions. So,
Yeah.
but kind of getting back to, if you do live in the state of Arizona, there is a completely free informational seminar. Basically, it's Understanding Your Healthcare. It's this Thursday, November 29th, from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., and it's going to be at the Embassy Suites Hotel in Phoenix, and it's right there at the Biltmore, so it's right there on right by 24th and Camelback.
Is that simulcast on the web anywhere?
No, it's not.
What?
I'll stand in the back of the room with my phone
Would
and
you do
record
that?
it.
I'll even send you with my iPad.
It's not, but it's going to be great. It's going to be going over some of the highlights again of kind of what I'm doing tonight, but getting a little bit more in depth from an actual law standpoint, and not going through the timeline, but just really kind of helping people understanding, what do you currently have? Just it's part of your show, organizing yourself. There's a lot of people out there that have no understanding whatsoever. If they do currently have health insurance, what exactly do they have coverage for? Do they know what their financial exposure is?
All right. Question and an answer for a lot of people that have the same question, I'm sure. So let's say you've got Janice, who works at McDonald's. She's married, has a couple of kids. Maybe they make $14,000 a year. I mean, they're basically poverty, right? What are they going to do? Yeah, they get a tax credit. Who gives a crap? I mean, they got to pay it up front?
What you're going to, yes, it is all premiums will be paid up front. Tax credits don't come into effect until you actually do your tax returns.
What I don't understand is this: they just don't have the money to pay it. What do they do?
It's not going to be any different than what we're seeing right now. People are just
people
simply
just aren't gonna do it.
choosing not to have not to carry health insurance, and they will gladly pay what the penalties are. Right now, just to give you an idea, for an individual come 2014, if you choose not to carry, individual health insurance, it's $95 a person.
Okay, wait, stop.
That's per year.
Oh, and you get it? And you get health insurance?
No.
That's
your penalty.
That's what's so crazy. It's
95 a year?
Per person. And
So
for
would-
children, it's $47.50.
I might as well move to Russia.
So wait, so here's the thing.
This is weak.
You either pay $1,200 a month to get insurance, which if you can't afford that, then you get $1,200 a month. If you can't afford that, you pay $100 a year penalty.
Or if you're like a family, let's just say $400 a year. And so what's going to really transition for a lot of people is just to purchase, other types of, for lack of a better word, supplemental type of insurance policies. Some that are just, discount indemnity type plans that will cover you for hospitalization, give you, some form of coverage if you are
The
hospitalized.
high deductible major medical stuff.
Well, the high deductibles are already currently in place because it's the only way that people can actually afford, the health insurance, because obviously the higher your deductible, the lower your premiums. So yes, people are in a quandary. They're going to have to decide what it is that they want, what it is that they want to do. But getting back to the fact that, a lot of people just don't really understand what they truly have right now. Most times if you ask somebody, well, what do you know about your health insurance? They know how much they pay. Mm-hmm. They know what their copayment is. They know what their deductible is, and that's about it. And they have no true understanding of what their coverage is, what their out-of-pocket exposure is, what if something major happens?
Right.
How much are you going to be financially exposed? And for small business owners, which is our particular market niche, that can be huge. If you are self-employed and something happens to you, how does your business continue? How do you pay the mortgage? How do you provide income? If you've got employees, how do you rectify that? How do you continue on making a living?
Right.
So there's just lots and lots of interesting things that are out there that we just really want to make sure that people understand, this is what's coming down. Do you know where you're at? Do you know how it's going to affect you and your family? And what can you do moving forward? Because as it stands, come January the 1st, 2014, the individual policies as we know now that you can actually purchase are basically going to cease to exist.
Right.
So instead of waiting until the last minute, get yourself organized, get yourself, figured out, and get yourself with, someone that you trust for an agent that's licensed.
And is that you?
That's me.
So this would be a great time. So for those of you who may have joined us late, we have Patricia Brugman. She's with ABBA Health Plans. And Patricia, why don't you give us your contact information? And all this also will be posted on Facebook. So if you want to know more about what we're talking about, the free seminar that's coming up on Thursday, it'll all be posted on Facebook. Please go check it out. It's if you'll just search "Become Organized," all one word, no space. It'll all be posted there. So Patricia, why don't you give us your information, how someone can contact you if they just don't get it? That would be me.
And that's probably more common than not. But my email address is P and my last name, which is Brugman, BRUGMAN, at ipa-america.com. And my direct line is area code 602-312-6765.
And we'll have all that posted on Facebook shortly after the show so that people can start accessing that right away.
I'm very disturbed by this information.
It is isn't it? That's exactly what I said. I was I'm not one to get excited about anything political. I'm just like, whatever. Especially with the elections, I was like, whatever. But when Patricia and I sat down today, we're at Paradise Bakery. We have this little meeting that we do every other Tuesday morning, and we were meeting, and she's like, let's just go over a few things. And she started telling me all this stuff. I was like seriously rattled. Like I was disturbed. I was disturbed.
It's just an eye opener.
I would have had to have an extra couple of cookies for sure.
Well, I was already pretty caffeinated, so.
It doesn't even, it's not even legit.
It doesn't, you don't really comprehend it. And at first I was like, okay, wait, no, did I hear those numbers right? That just can't be so.
I mean, $1,200 a month. I'd have to stop buying my wife all the diamonds and stuff every month I buy her, God.
Yeah, I'd go without insurance.
My yacht in I'd have to dry dock my yacht in San Diego and take it out of the slip.
You could always cash in a diamond. You may or may not need the insurance. I don't know.
I'd have to sell a few bars of my gold. What am I going to do?
Hey. But yeah, and then just to kind of keep moving on to that tax credit is only if you purchase those health insurance policies through the state exchanges.
And where does Arizona
that
stand right now? That means you get
into the cattle call with all the people, and you have to move doctors and all that crap, right?
Well, it's not so much that. Right now, basically, they extended the deadline for each state to decide whether or not they wanted to opt in and to create those exchanges. And that is coming up December the 14th.
Soon.
Yeah, which is soon. And Governor Jan Brewer is really waiting to try to see how much more information that Congress is really going to be able to provide the states, because there's no real information right now on how these exchanges are going to function. So they need to know where the money is coming from.
Right, who's going to pay for this?
No wonder Obama's thinking about legalizing marijuana. Yeah, everyone's going to need it.
Good point. I didn't think about that.
The states will be responsible for the funding of the exchanges. So since there's not enough information at this point in time, that's what's happening with a lot of the states that are out there. And it's not just the state of Arizona. So if the state of Arizona opts out of creating that exchange,
credit.
Then you will not get it. In order to get that credit, you have to purchase it from the exchange. So from the insurance companies that are within the exchange. So there's another caveat to that where
so
people
if
don't
Arizona
understand.
decides not to opt in, it doesn't matter if you buy the government plan. You don't get the tax credit.
By the way, just a small note. I'm forming a commune out on the property, and we're looking for about 12 more attractive
you got
and
plenty
women.
of room out here.
We're looking for about 12 more females that like to do different types of jobs and have different skills. So if you want to apply, just send me an email.
On your private Facebook.
Correct.
Yeah.
On my private Facebook with a photo, please.
Exactly. So there's just so much. So states can actually opt out. And so at that point in time, then there's no subsidies.
How many states have opted in so far? Do you know?
You know what? I do not know. It was up there. Last time, I think it was up to around 16 or 17 that were still kind of on the fence. But
Why would anybody opt out?
Don't quote me on that.
They don't want to give back the credit.
Well, because the state has to subsidize it. Am I right?
It's not the fact that the states want to. They just don't have a clear understanding. There's not enough information being provided to the states on how these exchanges are going to function, how are they going to operate, what kind of monies are actually going to be funneled in from the government. If the states have to do this on their own, then what is there going to be their fiscal responsibility in order to provide these subsidies and tax credits to these consumers in the state of Arizona, not knowing where the money's going to be coming from?
And a lot of these states are barely making it on their own.
Just remember, guys.
Poor California, they're already underwater.
Turn in your money, get gold, silver, because I'll tell you what, by 14, don't be worried, because our money's not going to be worth anything anyway. Our government's collapsing as we sit right here on the radio. It's collapsing.
Healthcare definitely needs reform. I will absolutely, as a citizen and an American, I really believe that it needs reform. Some of the changes that are coming down are good. Some of them, the way they're being implemented, it's a choice.
Are you going to have a job?
Absolutely. Because what's going to happen, in my personal opinion, is this. If the premiums are too high for people to actually be able to afford any of the government subsidy plans or the government essential policies that are going to be available, that will not preclude you from having a pre-existing condition, and obviously you can't afford it, then you're going to be willing to pay those penalties, because the penalties are a drop in the bucket.
But then you die.
And then in addition to that, you're going to layer them with other policies and plans that my company has. You'll layer them with life insurance policies that have, living benefits, meaning, God forbid, you get diagnosed with, any sort of a critical, chronic, or, any type of large illness, then you actually will get cash back to help offset whatever medical, expenses you do have.
Right.
There's other policies out there that will cover you while you're hospitalized. So there's other ancillary products that we do carry that by the time you combine those two and pay the penalties, you're probably still at a half of what a government-sponsored plan would cost.
So there's still options, but now it's not options as far as the traditional, what most people think
Correct.
as far as insurance. Now you really have to start thinking outside the box.
Absolutely.
And I think you would have to, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you'd almost have to sit down with a professional and say, I am an employer. I run a mom and pop shop. My son works with me. I have no other employees. And I have 2 other children, or
you're a 1099 employer,
right?
You're
so
just a contract
everybody
person.
is going to be creating their own a la carte plan,
silver and gold. But we've got a chatter out there that says, let's see, the goal of the progressives is to get the single payer system. They want to wipe out the private insurance, so government controls the entire system. Now, I do believe that too.
Well, we want to stay. The
politics thing.
I want to stay away from the politics, and I'm not going to comment whether I agree or disagree, because I think that's just going to start.
And I won't tell you who, but this is one of our state I happen to know who this is. This is one of our state elected politicians here making that comment.
Well,
listening to the O Factor.
And I'm glad that they're listening. Thank you so much for listening, first and foremost. And I mean, this is a very sensitive
everything is
topic.
politics, see? That's right.
And it is. And unfortunately, but I mean, the bottom line, even if you strip all your political opinions away, the bottom line is there are some things that are going to change with your health care, and there are things that you're going to have to put in place. And first and foremost, you need to start talking to people who know, not backroom gossip.
Right. And getting on the websites and, online and purchasing things that way is not going to answer your questions.
And stockpiling medications is only going to help nothing, right?
Well, most medications these days have expiration dates, and if you,
yeah, right.
I mean, if you follow that, they only last 2 weeks.
I don't stockpile ammo or medications, okay? So don't break into my place.
Before we get too much further, I do want to open up the phones. I know Joe's going to love this part. I do want to open the phones and be able to allow the listeners to ask questions. So if you have any questions you want to ask Patricia, now's the time to do it. Before we weren't taking any calls, but if you want to know, if you have some specific questions about healthcare reform and how it may or may not affect you, or how to get started, now's the time to either get on the chat or give us a call. Joe, what's the number?
480-745-1033.
All right. So do we have, you were pointing to the screen. Do we have comments from the mysterious chatter?
Yeah, I'm just doing a little chatting on the fly here. Just, little communicado while you're talking.
That is a pre-existing condition,
Yes, it is.
Okay, Patricia, one more time, tell us about what's happening Thursday.
Yes, one more time. We are putting on an informational seminar. It is free. Understanding Your Healthcare, Get the Facts. And it's this Thursday, November the 29th, from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Embassy Suites Hotel, Phoenix, Biltmore. And it's right there in the Biltmore shopping area, so right around 24th Street in Camelback. And please, feel free to bring anybody you'd like. It's open to the public. The presenter is very, very knowledgeable. We've got some industry experts going to be also talking about how it's going to be affecting Medicare, which I am not a guru on whatsoever. But we do have an industry expert in Medicare and people that know what they're talking about as far as what the law is going to bring for us.
And get there early.
Get there early.
And you can give us your opinion. Let us know what you think about this situation going on right now. Let us know. If you don't have a question, you have a comment, call us up and let us know what you think about this healthcare situation that we're about to.
And I'd love to hear more. I would love to hear how this is going to impact people. Fill up our Facebook. Our Facebook is always open to comments and suggestions, and I would love to hear and let the world hear. So.
And the thing about it is the law has already been passed, so it's not going anywhere. And with President Obama in office right now, it's not going to get repealed. So really, we have to work with what we know. Make sure that we have a good understanding of what our options are and essentially go from there, because there are already pieces of the law that are already in effect. And since they are in effect, they are not going away.
That's the bottom line.
Wow.
And so let's just kind of shift gears just a smidgen. And we are a show that's based on getting organized. Mm-hmm. So if I come up to you and say, I don't even know how to direct this, where would you tell people, what are your checklist of things to make sure that they're organized around getting their health care lined up for the changes?
First and foremost, if you currently do have a policy, I recommend that you pull it out.
Yes.
And you need to try to find a trusted licensed agent.
Define trusted.
A referral is always the best way. I'm not a big proponent of going and buying important things online. I wouldn't buy a home online. I wouldn't buy a car online. And I wouldn't trust my healthcare coverage that I have to worry about my children with online. You don't have that person to ask questions to. And after you do get sold that policy, who are you going to ask questions to after the fact? So you want to make sure that they are reputable. You also want to make sure that you check their license. Also want to make sure that the agency that they work for is in good standing with the Better Business Bureau and any other credible agencies that actually score you as a company. And sit down with that person. Have them review your current policy so that you know what you currently have, you know what your options are, and how to plan for what's going to happen in really just a hair over a year. We're already just moving right into December. So January the 1st is 13 months from now. Okay. We thought for a while we had time to figure this all out, but it's coming upon us rather quickly.
Right.
And my biggest thing is you need to do something now before that ability to choose is taken away. Because once January 1st comes along, if you don't have something in place that is a policy that is updated with all the mandates specified and outlined by the healthcare reform, then you are going to be required to purchase.
But do you suggest, okay, so I have a policy right now. Do you suggest that I contact you now, or do I wait until it's closer? Because things aren't solid yet. Things are still moving.
Things are not solid, but they are still moving. The timelines are still moving. The longer you wait, here's what happens. If you're currently healthy and you decide to wait and something happens 3 months or 6 months from now, and you now have a pre-existing condition, you have no choices. So you want to make sure you don't want to play Russian roulette with your health insurance.
Never. No.
And so now is the time. You know, it's just like anything. When you want to get organized, what do? Do you want to put it off, or do you just want to tackle it?
If you ask most of my clients, they're going to put it off to the last minute. You don't know anything about that.
And I get that. I'm one of your clients, and I absolutely get that. But now is the time to make your choices. Now's the time to sit down and get the facts and get the understanding and get a game plan in place.
So really, again, the first thing to do, if you're anywhere in the state of Arizona, you really want to be at the event Thursday. Again, if for no other reason to find out what you don't know, or find out what you think you know, whether or not it's true, or whether or not you've been completely misled. Like I take that as my own fault. I didn't do my homework, and I didn't really know what the Obamacare. I didn't know, just didn't know.
Right. And
quite honestly, didn't care.
Right. Well, and it's interpretation, and just like everything, everybody has their own interpretation, and so that's why, honestly, this free educational seminar this Thursday is just so terribly important. It's really getting the facts.
Right.
And once you have the facts, hey, then at that point in time, you make your own decision.
Right. And so if somebody were to call you and go, hey, Patricia, I need you to look over it, you're not going to sit there and try to sell them your products. And then that's one of the things I love about Patricia. For those of you, I mean, I love her. I've known her for quite some time now, but I mean, she's going to sit there and she will look over your policy, and anybody in that trusted professional that you spoke about should have the same standards. They're going to look at it and say, yes, this will qualify. No, this won't. Or here's the holes that you need to start plugging up. And just answer those basic questions so that when you go to bed at night, you know, here are the things I need to take care of, or nope, I'm covered. I can sleep good tonight.
Right. And that's what I pride myself in. I mean, really, honestly, educating my clients is to me, that's one of the most important things that I can do. That just really, really instills trust in who I am and what I'm about. And I just want to make sure that each and every one of my clients has an understanding of what they currently have. I'll provide them with options. If it works for your family, great. If it doesn't, then those are all individual choices. And everyone out there has to do what's best for them and their family.
Right.
Not everybody's in the same boat. So I still do things the old-fashioned way. I'll sit down with somebody and actually, you know, talk to them, find out what their needs are, find out what their budget is, find out what their concerns are, and then really custom tailor a plan that's specific to fit exactly that, and provide what the options are and go from there.
And y'all do really have, ABBA Health Plans really has a lot of plans out there that I didn't even know existed. Like, you really can customize something that works great for you. Joe, we got some questions.
We have on the line our Pinal County assessor.
Fantastic.
Douglas Wolf. We've got you online here.
Hi, Douglas. Oh, we can barely hear you. Hang on.
You got me? What is going on with my phone? Oh, I've got so many lines ringing. Come on.
Don't hang up yet. We're going to get with you. Hang on. Joe's going to work through a few technical difficulties,
Douglas.
but don't hang up.
You know what?
While they're getting that,
call you right back.
while they're getting that worked out, Patricia, why don't you give out your information again in case somebody wants to contact you?
Absolutely. I am a licensed agent in the state of Arizona, and I can be reached at area code 602-312-6765, and my email address is pbrugman, BRUGMAN, at ipa-america.com.
And then for those people that were out of the state of Arizona, can you help them?
Absolutely. At least I can point you in the right direction. If you shoot me an email and you are out of state, I can definitely point you in the right direction. I do, within our company, we do have trusted agents, licensed agents across the nation, which is kind of one of the nice things that I truly like about our particular policies, because our policies do transcend state lines.
Fantastic.
So
So if you're out of the state and you bought one of your insurance policies online, Patricia can point you to the right direction to actually talk to a live person, sit face to face with them, and say, this is what I have, starting with pulling that policy out of your files, out of your storage, if you haven't gotten to scanning yet.
And you're going to have to blow the dust off it, I'm sure.
I'm not going to assume that everybody's got their stuff scanned in. We're working up to that, right? But and she can recommend somebody to sit down with. And if that doesn't work, if for some reason there's not somebody available, I mean, are you in all 50 states?
Yes.
Well, then-
actually, I take that back. Almost all 50 states. So there are some states that we don't write in, but rather than going through the ones that we do, just if you want to email me, then just feel free to
We'll
email
get you in
me.
the right place.
Yep, let me know what state you're living in, and I'll be more than
What a
happy to help
challenge
you.
what a challenge that was just to get through on a line. We've got 30 lines ringing. All right, go right ahead there. Douglas, our Pinal County assessor.
Hi, Douglas.
Well, we don't have a great connection, Joe, but I'll do the best I can under dire circumstances.
We can hear you perfectly.
Okay, great. I want to ask about the new definition of income for taxpayers in the sense of how this law is going to be administered. And as I understand it, there's two ways the IRS is going to measure your income in order to assess the penalties if you don't comply and what subsidy you have. So one of them is ordinary income, and then is the other one the alternative minimum tax. Could you maybe enlighten us a little bit more on the how the IRS, you think, will go ahead and interpret the law in that circumstance, and if they are wrong, at least in my opinion or my friends' opinions, people out there who are going to get taxed, what is the appeals process that is in the law in the case that you don't agree with the IRS assessment of your income?
Again, those are great questions. Interpretation is really going to be the biggest issue. And right now, the only way that I have been able to read it and have an understanding of it is that the penalties are going to be based on your adjusted gross income. So whatever that number is, that's what they're going to utilize.
Well, but there's two forms of income. I'm reading to the something from the GAO, and it says there's ordinary income for tax liability, and then is the alternative minimum tax, and they have to do the liability differently and calculate whether or not under either system you're going to have a liability for the purposes of. Now, I understand you're not tax attorneys, and this has not been
Thank
adjudicated,
God.
but
And if I'm going
the
to,
fact is, this is a labyrinth of rule making that's going to confuse everybody, and of course, experts like yourselves will be needed. But I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen. I think it's all to be determined.
There's a lot that we still don't know. There's a lot in reference to the exchanges. We don't know how they're going to pan out and how they're going to function and operate. As far as the question that you're asking, those two different separate types of line items on the tax return. The only thing that I have been, when I've been reading through them, is just that's all that they have said. So again, you're right. Interpretation is going to be a huge factor on this. It's going to leave a lot out there, and until it actually comes into play and we actually have to start enforcing these, then that's probably when everything's going to.
So one of the things that I do, and in addition to organizing, I also work as a bookkeeper. And so I subcontract to different CPA firms. And when I was sitting in a meeting with a CPA firm just this week, and they still don't, the forms, the tax forms are still not even done yet.
No.
The IRS is still trying to figure out how all of this is going to impact them. So for like tax professionals right now we're getting toward the end of the year, who need to be aware of what's on those forms and make sure their software's updated, they're still left in the dark. All of this is still having such a huge impact just on the tax industry alone, on tax preparers. They don't know. There's no forms. They have template software that could change at any day now. So, I mean, it's a really great question, but the bottom line answer is we don't know.
A lot of people don't know. They have suppositions and interpretations, but until they actually get it in writing where, CPAs can understand it, where the consumers can understand it, it's out there.
let me ask you this question, and just let's play hypothetically. What happens if everybody does not comply and decides, you know what, we're just not going to do this. We'll make the IRS go out and try to figure it out and not buy insurance and not do anything. Could the citizens overturn this law by the fact that they just revolt against it and say, we're not going to play, we don't care?
Well, if you don't play, then obviously you'll pay. But that's probably going to be exactly.
But how can they force you to pay if they don't even know how to promulgate the rules? You have a circular argument there. You can't enforce a penalty if you don't even know what the rules are.
And that part is fairly accurate. The thing about it is that the numbers that they have for the penalties are pretty cut and dry. Now, you might be talking about. Now, are you talking about the penalties, or are you talking about the subsidy tax credit?
I'm just talking about the fact if I say I'm not going to pay, I'd rather pay the fine and let you come after me to prove my household income's too high or too low.
You don't have to prove your income to not.
This is exactly what the progressives always do, is create a web and then say, well, it's a problem, so now we in government have to fix it for you since we screwed it up. I appreciate your time this evening, and thanks for trying to walk through this confused mess.
Well, and then also I encourage you to keep
Thank you
listening.
so much, Douglas Wolf, our Pinal County tax assessor.
And I encourage you to keep listening because we do have the tax accountants that are going to be coming on to tell us, okay, here are some things. And then we've talked to Patricia. We're going to have follow-up shows. So as these things start unfolding, again, as we said at the beginning, this is just the tip of the iceberg. These are just the beginning things.
I did take 4 calls while...
Oh, wow. Sorry.
No problem. And these are short calls. Rhonda from Tempe, Arizona said, this sucks. Bill Peterson from Reno said, the world is ending.
Chicken Little.
Barb from Phoenix said, could she get your name and phone number, your contact info, because she'd like to talk to you about health insurance. And Gerald Kaplan, and that name sounds really familiar, from Tulsa, Oklahoma, said, gonna collapse our economic system. Very short and sweet,
short,
but
sweet, and to the point.
It sounds catastrophic.
And there's just a lot. And again, folks, it's not the gloom and doom. It's not the intent, really, of what I'm trying to disclose here tonight. It's really just having the consumers, the American people, to really understand what exactly is coming down the road.
Right.
And where are you?
And
what do you have? And to get yourself organized. And for goodness sakes, do not wait till the last minute. You do not want your backs up against the wall where you no longer have a choice.
Right. So everybody who's listening should be telling everybody they know to dust off their policies, contact their insurance professionals, and just start asking questions. All right, Joe.
Oh, what?
I was checking.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just checking in with you.
Was not prepared for that.
Do we have any other questions on our chat? If not, I'm going to give Patricia another chance.
Yeah, let's give Patricia another chance to do whatever she's going to do. And that little jig you promised.
Yeah,
too.
that little jig. That's our little secret show.
Oh, gotcha. Was that out loud?
Did I say that out loud? Yes, I did.
All right, so tell us again, how can we get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me by calling my line direct, which is area code 602-312-6765. And my email address is pbrugman, BRUGMAN, at ipa-america.com. And once again, if you do live in the Phoenix area or in the state of Arizona, please, please, please grab in you neighbors and friends and family and come to the free informational seminar, Understanding Your Healthcare, Get the Facts. It's this Thursday, November the 29th, from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Embassy Suites Hotel in Phoenix, right there at the Biltmore.
And those of you that are calling in right now, I can see we've got some blinking going on. I turn the phones off because when I have 30 lines ringing at once,
it freaks out your system.
I'm not a switchboard operator. It freaks me out. I get scared and I start to panic, have an anxiety attacks. Then it's a pre-existing condition, and then it's a big circular thing again. So,
and then
guys,
we're back on the insurance track.
And again, just feel free to
shoot an email.
me.
That's right.
Exactly.
Shoot an email with your questions, your comments.
I will be more than happy to answer your questions. If I can't answer them, I will do my darndest to help you to try to find that information. If you are out of state, I will most definitely point you in the right direction.
And on the politics side, make sure you tune in Tuesdays at what time? 11 o'clock.
I was supposed to say
For
that.
Pinal Power
6:15
Players
my
with
show.
Douglas Wolf, our Pinal County tax assessor, who absolutely brings the people on, knows what's going on, talks politics, knows what's happening. Not that you don't. The politics side I'm talking about.
Yes,
which
politics.
we decided
staying
not to
away
talk about.
from.
So you call and talk to Douglas Wolf because Douglas Wolf knows politics. Keep it going.
Okay, so one last thing too. If you have any questions, I know you can email them to Patricia, but I would really love it if everybody would post those questions on Facebook, because I guarantee you that some of the same questions you're asking, 50 to 100 more people are asking the same questions. So go ahead and post your questions on Facebook. I will make sure that Patricia gets them in a timely, orderly fashion. We'll get them answered. If it's a short and sweet answer, we'll post it on Facebook. If not, I'll make sure that she gets back in touch with you. If for some reason you are not an internet person, give me a call. You can call me directly. My direct number is 480-382-5571. It's not very often I give out my number. I keep forgetting week to week. But you can always give me a call. It's Jessica with Personal Consultants. I am your bookkeeper and professional organizer.
And if you are that guy that called on the phone that wanted Jessica's information
you
prior
can
to the
leave a
show,
voicemail.
if her husband answers, make sure you hang up. No, I'm only kidding, guys. But seriously,
Again, that number
be
is...
nice when you call Jessica,
Please
please.
be nice. Please. Okay, that number again is 480-382-5571. Okay, so Joe, what are your thoughts about this? I want to...
My thoughts?
Yeah, I really want to know.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Was that a good answer?
No.
Sorry.
It was short.
It
Pretty much
was.
like our
And
comment.
sweet.
Short and sweet there, huh? Seriously, my answer is this. Start looking for somewhere to live, right? I mean, like Costa Rica, I hear the Philippines a good place to retire. I don't know. I don't have the answer. We're planting edible fruit trees in our backyard right now.
Well, and from an organizer's perspective, it's not uncommon for me to walk into somebody's office or somebody's home and they say, "Oh, this is so terrible. It's going to take us forever to fix this." And once you get the ball rolling and get people on board, and then they get themselves organized and ask the right questions, then it's not so unmanageable. I think right now part of the unmanageableness of this topic is that
You
nobody
don't know where to
started
start.
asking.
Right.
Nobody started asking. And so it's like this big vague concept that nobody started to grapple and deal with. And so when people start asking these questions, or when the answer is going to appear, it's not until you start asking the questions, then you're not going to get the answers until then.
The bottom line is this. The bottom line.
Get organized.
As long as I'm not hurting you, leave me alone. Right?
I would agree
I
with
mean,
that.
seriously, I don't need the government interference. I don't need it. I'm good.
I can agree and
don't you
disagree at
think?
the same time.
Well, you may need the government. I don't need the government. I'm good. I'm good on my own. Leave me alone. I'll start my little commune, and we'll all do little things. We'll make a pie-shaped vegetable garden, and have some forts and shit like that, stuff like that. I said that purposely, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Now's the time, though, ladies and gentlemen. It just, the time to procrastinate is no longer. And it's all a part of organization.
Yeah.
It's organizing your business expenses. It's organizing your personal expenses. And, it's just a matter of getting down to brass tacks and actually pulling it out and start doing it.
Right.
that's right.
So we are going to, again, post on Facebook, and if you want to go look at it, it's search Become Organized, all one word, on Facebook, and we're going to post the checklist of things that you need to do. We're going to post Patricia's contact information, as well as the website. You want to give out that website one more time as far as...
Yes, you can get additional information. This is a really great resource. And again, that website is www.healthreform.kff.org.
And that will, again, also be posted on Facebook, as well as I encourage you to also poist.
Poist is a new word.
Post your questions. Post your questions. We'll get them over to Patricia, get the answers, and if they're too long-winded, we'll schedule a sit-down conversation, either by phone, Skype, internet. Somehow we'll get it worked out with Patricia, no matter what state you're in. So you don't have to be here in Arizona to get a hold of her. I've already warned her that her phone is going to blow up.
Nice.
Email might be quicker.
Or maybe people
I
just
guess
don't
I have
care.
to go. Now I have to call.
Maybe people
Sprint.
are just depressed after this.
Yeah, I'll probably have to call Sprint now and change my plan.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. I know that there's still a lot of questions out there. We are going to have a follow-up show in the weeks or months to come when some more information comes out, so be tuned for that. And that's all I got for tonight. I think my brain is just overloaded with healthcare reform right now, so.
Gotcha.
Thank you both very much for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming. I'm so glad.
Yes, it was great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks again. You've been listening to The O Factor with Jessica. Bye, everyone. Please pay attention to our sponsors.
Are you experiencing computer problems? Is your computer running slow, bogged down with viruses and spyware? You need a reliable and knowledgeable, trustworthy computer service company. Contact Computers, Networks, and More, located in Santan Valley. Get your computer or laptop running